Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you put that on us. You are not paralyzed.
I am so paralyzed.
No.
Rough on him now.
No, he needs to know.
Okay.
He's always crying.
Tough love it is, tough love. Wake up, idiot. You want to know what I am? You want to see what my life is?
Don't do it.
You want to see what's going on here? Don't you stick that knife in your leg. Oh! Oh, man! Ow! Well, hold on. Oh, man! Hold on now. Hold on.
You ready to just jump in and do this thing then?
Sure. Is this also from
Yes, that's the other thing we have to do is open that letter.
Is this a tattoo thing or is this a
That's
magic
a tattoo
thing?
needle.
Okay.
You can put it away. I mean, it's for those listening, the tattoo needle is in a packaging. It's fine. I don't have sharps just laying around. And on that bombshell, welcome to this episode of Lucky Paper. Starting with a bombshell. Welcome to this episode of Lucky Paper Radio. My name is Andy. I'm here as always with my co-host Anthony. I'm kind of in a rush this morning, and I didn't think of a nickname. I'm sorry.
Just
Maddox.
fall back to Koji. I'm doing so many Koji projects this week. It's great. I love it.
Kojiman magic. Yeah. Kojiman magic.
Got some yellow peas going right now, and they smell fantastic.
They smell fantastic in the kojification process?
Yes.
Or,
yeah. It's like
you get that
sweet
sort of
and fruity.
Apricot-y kind of.
Apricots, yeah.
Apricot? How do you pronounce that word?
I don't.
You just did.
I forgot.
You hit it with that long A sound.
You just got to do it with confidence and don't look back.
This episode is a little bit of an admin episode, kind of a little potpourri here. There's a couple things to talk about. We're going to mostly refer back to our great set of questions we got when we solicited questions for our 300th Q&A. We've had a big document of great questions in there that we've been meaning to come back to when we had time. And this is a good time because we're also talking about just some stuff going on at Lucky Paper that people need to know about. First of all, you should open that envelope we got to the P.O. box. I'm not going to say who it's from until you open it to see how they want to be credited.
Okay.
Based on the actual message itself.
I get some
paper opening ASMR.
Some Foley work here. Seems like a stack of magic cards.
It's definitely magic card shaped.
Okay. Nice handwritten note. This is from Kyle, a.k.a. Beatman, in the Discord, to Lucky Paper Radio. Thanks for spreading the gospel that is Cube and making great content about it. You have no idea how many road trips you've made much more enjoyable. Enjoy some custom cards in your image. Incredible.
Whoa.
All right.
Beat, man. Beat,
we have
indeed.
Here we have Anthony the Pickler. I've got Death Touch and Trample. I'm a 3/1.
Whoa, Death Touch Trample.
Death Touch Trample. That's a weird
combo. That's just a rules nightmare for new players.
It's you deal 1 damage regardless, and then tramples over. Can we have first strike too?
Well, here's the really tough part. If they make their creature indestructible or whatever, do you know how much damage it deals?
Wait, say it again. I was reading the card.
If they make their blocker indestructible or something, do you know how much damage it deals?
Still 1?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it still assigns one damage that would be lethal if not for the indestructible clause. It's pretty complicated.
Anyway, whenever Anthony enters or attacks, create a food token, then put an age counter on each food you control. That's pretty good.
It's pickled.
Activated abilities of foods you control with 3 or more age counters on them cost 2 less to activate. Okay, we've
so
even
all
have
the
kind of
food
like a
turn into turbo
counters.
cube counters.
Love it. And then we have Andy Prodigal Thopterist. You cost Grixis mana for a 3/2 at the beginning of your upkeep.
So far I'm in. I am
if you control fewer than 100 ornithopters. Great. An ornithopter token. Players can't gain life.
Yes!
Great. We finally solved that.
Yes!
And whenever a thopter you control deals combat damage to a player, you may take 5.
Just take 5 damage?
So take 5, search your library for exactly 5 cards and put them into your sideboard, then shuffle. That's actually pretty good.
What is that? Okay, that's
just
hilarious.
Remove 5 cards.
You just make
your deck.
you improve your deck. You improve your draws. Beatman, incredible. These are beautiful. Genuinely, I think very inventive, cool designs. And I can't wait to win another draft of Derek's Theseus Cube and then just give him this card to put in there quietly.
Oh, that's a great idea. Actually, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
You got to win a draft first.
No, everybody gets to contribute, right?
No. So everyone gets to
you're
contribute
right.
just lands until Derek has enough lands that he's satisfied. But you got to win to put non-land cards in the cube.
Okay, you're right. We got 2 copies of each.
Incredible. I saw. Kyle, thank you so much. This is so cool and so thoughtful. And yeah, I love the designs. There's a lot of deep cuts in the designs, which I appreciate. If you want to send some mail to our P.O. Box, it's really the only reliable way to get your message read on air. You can send something to P.O. Box 4855, Baltimore, Maryland 21211, and we will almost certainly read your message on air if you do that, because not that many people are willing to go to the mailbox to actually send a physical message to us.
Or we won't if you don't want us to, but let us know in the message that you don't want it read.
Yes, definitely do that. Otherwise, we will read it if you don't tell us not to read it. The other update I wanted to give is listeners may remember that we talked in our episode with Ollie when we talked about playtesting. We alluded to the fact that Ollie and Anthony and I have all been designing cubes for this event that's coming up in New York, which is Cube for a Cause Obscura. And this is an event where the cubes are all brand new, custom designed for the event around a one-word prompt that was randomly assigned to each designer. And so the idea is that every drafter is going to sit down at the beginning of the pod with absolutely no clue what they're drafting. They have no selection processing in your network. You're just going to get randomed into a pod, and you are not going to know what that cube contains until you open the packs, because the lists are not public and there's no information about them available publicly yet. We wanted to record a couple of episodes talking to some of the designers of these projects. First of all, I want to talk about our own, obviously. I mean, I mentioned this in like January, but it was truly heartbreaking to me that you were designing a new cube for the first time in 15 or 20 years, and we can't talk about it on the podcast because it would be great fodder for the podcast. But I want to talk about my design too, and I want to talk about yours. So we want to record episodes about that, and a lot of the designers are friends of ours. A lot of them are former guests on Lucky Paper Radio, so we were like, let's get some more people in here and just like record some episodes. And it turns out that basically everybody is interested in recording an episode, and there are going to be a total of 16 additional episodes of the show, and the format of the episodes is going to be a 30-minute interview with the designer about their prompt, their design process, with how they were thinking about the cube, and their sort of hopes and fears going into this blind event. And that's going to be recorded before the event happens. I've already recorded most of them. And Anthony's in a couple of those episodes, but you can't know what most of the cubes are because you are playing in the event. So there's a small sort of group of people who's you were in the design group for. You can be in those episodes. But mostly the first half of those episodes is going to be me trying my best to be an okay interviewer. I'm no Cade. I'm not really an interviewer. You know, hear from these designers in terms of what they're like trying to do. And then we're going to record another 30-minute segment after the event with all the same designers to talk about their lessons learned, how it went. And obviously Anthony will be there for all those, which will make the second half much better and more exciting. I think this event is such a cool opportunity as a cube designer because we all have different approaches to this format. There's a lot of great shows out there talking about the designing specific cubes. Obviously, we're kind of doing something in the spirit of what Cade does for Recross the Paths, but instead of talking about established cubes that designers have had for a long time, we are talking about these like brand new projects. And I think it's a really cool opportunity to like see different approaches to this like novel restriction and to get to have the rare like talk to an experienced cube designer that knows what they're doing, that is now put in the sort of frame of having to make something really without any playtesting, without, you know, very much collaboration from their normal online communities, without public support, but just put it in front of people and then see how it works out for them. I'm excited enough about this that I'm like willing to do all these different episodes.
It's also just like a really unique set of constraints. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how different people respond to the prompts, because that's not a way that cube designers normally operate.
For sure.
And I think people are going to interpret them in vastly different ways. It's also very interesting in that we are designing cubes specifically for this one event. Well, they will be played by people for the first time. And that is very different than designing a cube that is, you know, this is the thing I'm going to bring to my weekly cube nights and get played again and again by the same people. And seeing how different designers respond to that change in context, I think is going to be pretty cool.
For sure. So I'm really excited about it. The reason we're talking about it right now is because we have a great editor, Matthew, who's been editing the show for over a year now. I should have done a better job of actually noting when Matthew started to like fully celebrate Matthew's first episode, but I think it was July of last year, so I should look back and like send him a cake or something. But Matthew's been editing the show for a year, doing a great job. We're so grateful for Matthew's work. And if you're a longtime listener to the show, you remember that we started the Patreon last summer with the goal of basically paying for an editor as Anthony and my lives changed, and I specifically was just kind of over editing a podcast every weekend of my life, which I had done for 5 years straight, basically. And you all showed up and supported the show, and were able to sort of pay for the editing that Matthew does, as well as putting some money towards other projects, most namely the Cube Fellowship Program, which to date we have given just shy of $7,000 out to Cube Fellows. So that's basically all the excess money from our Patreon that doesn't go towards our expenses gets put into a pool that we, you know, slowly give out to people that are some of the best and brightest in the community to help them attend local Cube events and make those events as great as they can possibly be. We actually don't talk about the Patreon on the show that much, and we at least should to thank everybody more regularly, I think, because this whole show over the past year is made possible by our support on Patreon. We also don't really make any effort to grow it at all. It's been plateaued for 9 or 10 months or whatever, which I'm not interested in growing it for the sake of growing it. It pays for our editing bills, it pays for the web hosting and all the other stuff we have going on, and the excess turns into fellowship money, basically. And if you're curious, we also do have a operating costs page on our website that outlines all of our income expenses across the entire duration of this project for the past however long. And, it's $45,000, $46,000 in expenses we've had for this project since 2018. So it's not a small operation over here. And it's all supported by you all. And it means a lot. But I think both of us, I think you feel just as strongly as I do on this point. I do not have it in me to read an ad. I never want to do it. If the show became something that was unsustainable for me, I would just stop making it before I would take any advertising support. No shade. Every time I say this, I feel like I have to go to lengths to make sure that I'm being clear that I'm not judging anybody that does take advertising to support their thing. It is a totally necessary thing that makes a lot of sense for most people. It is how the world works. And if you're going to be a person in the world, and I think people should, get paid for their creative output, that is one of the main ways to do it. I just really don't like the sort of way it makes me feel to me personally participate in that system. I take my word as a very important thing. I would never want to say anything about a product that I didn't 100,000% stand behind. And here's a fun fact: I don't stand behind basically any product for a variety of reasons. I can think of I would stand behind my favorite brand of soy sauce. I'm thinking real hard. Mala Market, if you do want to sponsor the show, let's chat if you're out there listening. But something tells me they're not. So yeah, Patreon is it's really essential for you and I, for our values, to make this show and continue doing it every week. I'm coming to you now, hat in hand, because our editing budget is about to, we paid $200 an episode for Matthew to edit the show. You can see this all on our expenses page. None of this is a secret, which means we pay $800 to $1,000 a month to have the podcast edited. Most months it's $800, some months it's $1,000. And with 16 additional episodes coming out, $3,200 of editing that's going to have to happen to get these episodes out. And I'm making an appeal here to anybody that likes the show, that has enjoyed the product we're putting out there, that wants to see it continue and stay ad-free. And let me be clear, I'm not threatening you to add ads, because I'm never going to do it. We might just stop making the show before we add ads. But if you like what we're doing here and you want to support it, try checking out our Patreon. We do have a bonus podcast there that we make somewhat intermittently whenever we have availability. We try and have 2 recording slots a week, but sometimes one of us is traveling or we have other things going on and we have to use that slot on Lucky Paper. And so I think to date we've put out 20 bonus episodes, so a little less than once every 2 weeks on average. That's kind of what you can expect over there. And that podcast is called Magic Doesn't Exist, where Anthony and I are forced to talk about stuff we enjoy or are interested in, but it is not allowed to be magic, because we also don't want to put any of the Cube or magic related content behind a paywall. So you're not missing anything. You're not missing any Cube stuff over there. It's just an opportunity to hear Anthony talk about pickles, basically. It's pretty much what it is. But the other thing is, we talked about what to do with these episodes. At first, I thought there would be I don't know, I thought maybe we would get 3-4 other designers that were interested in doing this with us, and then we would have our episodes and their episodes. We'd have just a run of 5 to 6 episodes of the show that would be all about this event. But then we got a full 16 designers that are willing to talk about it, and that, if we just did that for the show every week, would be 4 months of just talking about this event. And I think all these episodes we've already recorded, the first half of most of them, they're going to be very different. They're not what our show is. It's about cube design, and it's about cube design in these very specific contexts. So it's a slight format change, but it is not a change in topic or material. But after discussing on our Discord with our current Patreon supporters, the sort of consensus is that people would like them to be bonus episodes and not replace existing weekly episodes of the show. So what we're going to do is this. We are going to release those episodes as bonus episodes. The speed at which they come out will be the speed at which we can afford to pay Matthew to edit them. If we get more support, those bonus episodes will come out sooner. If we get less support, it could be as long as 9 months until we get those episodes out. And I hope to get out sooner. And I hope people out there that are listening and enjoying the show, especially if you found us in the last year, will consider throwing a couple bucks at us on Patreon so we can make that happen. I'm proud of the way we run this show. I'm proud of the transparency in the operating costs. I'm proud of the fact that we don't take advertising. I'm proud of the fact that we take additional money and put it back into the community rather than paying ourselves, which, again, no judgment to anybody that does pay that, because this is a creative effort. I think you and I, in some senses, deserve to be paid, but you and I also don't do this for the money. Our jobs are fine. We don't have children. I'm in a double income household. It's just not worried about making money myself personally off this right now.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, and I get this question a lot about other hobbies, is like, when are you going to turn this into a career? And it's like, or like, start selling soy sauce to the farmer's market. And it's like, I could do that, but I already turned one of my interests into a career, and I don't think I need to do that a second time.
I really strongly resist this idea that like things are not valid until they are like participating in capitalism in some way. And if you are a long time listener to the show, you'll know that we resisted starting a Patreon for a long time because of that exact reason. I was like, I don't really want to feel like we are, beholden to some elite group of listeners, or that people expect some additional type of access or whatever. Like, I felt very weird about it. And I gotta say, after doing it now for a year, it feels great. And none of the weird stuff that I was worried I might feel, I felt. Everyone's been so supportive and great. It genuinely feels good to get to pay Matthew, to get to give money to the Cube Fellows, to get to do more ambitious projects because we have some resources to do it. I feel like it is a net benefit for everybody in the community. So I'm proud of how we run the show. I would encourage you to check out our operating cost page. That'll be linked in the show notes. And check out our Patreon and consider throwing some money at us if you like what we're doing here, so that we can pay Matthew more money to get those bonus episodes out sooner, and you can hear them sooner.
And then twice as much podcast for everybody out there.
Yeah, and then potentially, twice as much podcast until those bonus episodes run out. Do you have anything else to add about this, Anthony? I've been blabbering for a long time.
One other question just about this, like, Obscura project. We just mentioned we're designing cubes that are meant to be played one time for the first time. Mm-hmm. Are you also going to keep this cube that you're designing together, or is that kind of up in the air?
I'll say this, and then I'll ask Scott if I'm allowed to say this before the event. I'm planning to auction off the cube and give the money to the nonprofit that the event is supporting.
Oh, that's awesome.
I have no desire to own an additional cube. I will say the more I've worked on it, the more I'm like, I'm getting kind of fond of this. And
is this the cube right here?
This is actually the cube right here. Don't look at the top card. Flip it over.
I couldn't tell. I can't just like look at a magic card from across the room and know exactly what it is based on.
Yeah, you couldn't definitely do that.
Definitely not.
This is the cube right here. I'm sure it's going to change between now and the event, but there it is. Big stack of cards. It's a pretty cheap cube budget-wise overall. I had a lot of the cards already, and so I'm basically like donating that to the event. That's my plan for it. I'm hoping it goes to somebody that picks it up and runs with it and like likes the concept and like wants to improve it and iterate on it, because I'm sure I'm not going to get it right out of the gate, but that is my plan for this particular cube.
Very cool.
I do think it's a really cool idea. I'm excited to talk with you about it, and I can't until after the event.
Soon.
Maybe
couple more weeks.
I hope you get to play it. Maybe I'll have Scott put his little fingies put his little thumb on the scales behind the scenes to make sure that you get to play this one in particular.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do with my cube, I think, is that a bunch of people in our local group were interested but aren't able to get to the event. Hopefully, if they don't watch, I guess they might want to watch coverage. My idea was to at least run it a couple times here so that local players could have that same first-time experience. And then, I don't know, whether or not I keep it together depends very much on how it actually ends up playing.
Okay, this is coming out the week before Obscura, so I shouldn't say anything about it because I'm sure other Obscura attendees are listening. But yeah, yours will be interesting.
It's going to be great.
All right, that's it for our pitch. And, I listen to so many podcasts that are constantly, shilling their Patreon. And we mention it so people know that it's there. But I also vow to not, become a Patreon shill. This is the second time we've talked about it any longer than, for 2 seconds on the podcast since it launched. So
since we're talking about stuff that, projects we've been working on, you've also been putting out a lot of videos. Are there other, Lucky Paper things that you should...
I should say, people comment in the videos all the time. I had no idea these were here. Why don't you talk about them on the podcast? And I think I should do that, and then I never do. I found a nice little format for me that works well for, how I like to make stuff. Whether people like it or not is still up in the air. But I'm putting out a lot of videos of me just kind of extemporaneously talking about cube design. Central to that, I started doing just, videos where I would talk through cube updates in detail. I usually write pretty long blog posts for the updates on all of my cubes, and I was like, I feel like people are not really, I'm thinking hard enough about it to write it down, but I feel like people are not really reading the blogs for the most part. So I thought I'd make some videos where I basically walk through and made the same points in a video, and that eventually turned into me making that entire video series about designing Take 5, which is 40 hours or something of me talking through cube design for that particular project. So I'm making a lot of videos over on the YouTube channel. You should check that out as well. I will say, this is a small request. 2 other small things I'll ask of people. Platforms are awful. I don't ever want to be in a situation where I feel like I'm catering to the whims of whatever YouTube wants, because that's terrible. I would also say, don't listen to the podcast on YouTube. You can, it's there. We put it there, but it's the last place you should listen to the podcast. You should really have an RSS reader and get the RSS feed. That is what I would love for listeners to do. If you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, it's fine, but also it's a less direct access to like us. We do have a newsletter we basically never talk about. It is like available on our website if you want to sign up for it. I would strongly encourage people to like sign up for the newsletter because as platforms change, it's possible that like Spotify will just stop showing you our show or YouTube will just stop showing you our show. I mean, you won't even know we exist anymore because they'll just forget about us. So if you really care about what we're doing, we send newsletters so infrequently just for really big stuff we're doing, so that'll keep you up to date on what the major things are. But yeah, there's also a lot of YouTube videos over there I've been making, which I would encourage you to check out. It's been a lot of fun. Ryan Overturf has been inspired and sort of picked up and started doing videos in the same style that I've been really enjoying. Ryan is a font of cube design knowledge, and so it is awesome to see somebody else making similar videos. And then California Joe, Southern California Joe. I mean,
we got multiple
they're
California
both from
Joes.
Northern California, but this Joe lives south of the other Joe in Northern California. One of the California Joes also has a YouTube channel called Degenerate Cuber, making somewhat similar videos about cube concepts. So maybe the YouTube cube world is popping off a bit, and you should go check it out if that kind of thing interests you.
There's also articles on the website. Parker's been putting up a lot of great stuff. I have some articles I've been meaning to write, but we'll see when that happens.
Articles, tools, list formatters, all kinds of stuff. And the Patreon, to be clear, supports all of that. Like, Patreon is not just for the podcast. We also use the Patreon to pay Parker for his editing and writing. We use the Patreon to pay for all the web hosting costs for maintaining the tools people like to use on our website. It pays for everything. And you can all see that outlined on the expenses page, which I'm also proud of the expenses page. It's a good expenses page. You should check it out. With all that out of the way, let's move back to our questions we got for our episode 300 Q&A and just pick up where we left off.
Sounds great. I mean, we're still not going to get through all these in
close.
the half hour we have left, but
Not even remotely close. From Simon, what do you think are the reasons why you've managed to continue doing this podcast for so long? Most don't.
I would say one of them was hiring an editor was a big one for you.
Yes, hiring an editor, and what that sort of refers to more broadly is the thing that I think is very important to me and also you, which is that I really care about sustainability in all things that I do. I think a lot about future headaches and try and avoid them as much as possible. So, for example, like, you know, the podcast, we intentionally started in a way that I knew would be sustainable for us when I first started it. And then hiring the editor, hiring Matthew was kind of the next step of making it sustainable. But we really minimize ongoing costs, for example, related to the website. Our website is hosted in a way that costs us like $1 a month. You can, again, go check the expenses page to see exactly how much money we've paid Amazon AWS over the years. It is, I'll tell you right now, for the nearly 8 years the website has been online, we have paid Amazon AWS $185, like less than its cost to like just pay for the domain name we have, which costs a little bit more than that over the past 8 years. Those kinds of decisions, I think, have helped set us up for success. I also have made podcasts before, so I kind of knew what I was getting into and was like prepared for the long haul. And the biggest thing is just that people responded to it. I mean, if people didn't like the show, we would have stopped making it. And we got sort of a good response early on and have continued to find that the community is really great. Yeah, we're making a show that people seem to like and are getting something out of. And I'm really proud of the community we've built. So that's the real reason we keep going.
I mean, I think you also just set a very clear expectation when we started that this is a weekly thing and we can't miss it. And we've just kind of like stuck by that.
I'm autistic and I need to do things on a schedule. Did I
Interesting.
mention
Is that formal?
No, it's not a formal diagnosis, but everyone is like, I mean, yeah, come on, basically. I really like doing things on a schedule. And that's part of the reason why making a podcast really works for me as opposed to making some other type of creative output, because the regularity of it is part of the shtick. And there are hundreds of weeks of the past 300 episodes where we wouldn't have recorded a podcast if we didn't force ourselves to sit down and say, what are we going to record about this week, right? And it's like, are we forcing it? But it's like, no, that's the creative process. Like figuring out what to record, every third week because nothing is like jumping out at you is part of the idea of the show. And I think some of our best episodes came out of that. And so, yeah, basically like setting this up as a like habit, a ritual, a creative practice is a thing that definitely helps.
I think there's, a couple other things that really help make it just like an easy habit to continue is that like we have been friends for years and years, like know each other very well, work together, see each other constantly. So it's not
also
like
we live 6 minutes apart. We have no boss. We work together, so we can do this whenever we want. There's a lot of like logistical things that make this easy for us. And once we got all the equipment and set it up, it takes us no time to sit down and record a show.
Like just a little bit more friction makes things so much more difficult. So it like totally makes sense why a lot of podcasts get started and then don't have a way to continue. I mean, for me, it also helps that like, yes, I enjoy playing Magic and I enjoy Cube. I also just really, really value our local community here and fact
Absolutely.
that, it's not just the people that play Magic together, it's also the people that are getting together to go see the movies or borrow a drill or help somebody move. And like that aspect, I think really keeps me motivated to keep playing Magic. And that obviously feeds back into the podcast.
Thank you for the question, Simon. Deinonychus asks, what's the clearest sign you have that a cube isn't for you personally?
The initiative. I think it's that simple. I'm trying to think if there's anything more like
That
nuanced.
is probably the clearest. Like the initiative is such a perfect combination of insanely powerful and also like so complicated. And yeah, I think a lot of cubes that include the initiative is a pretty like bright red sign that it's like, well, whatever cube design goals you had, they probably don't overlap very much with the kind of cube I want to play, because I'm seeing that you're playing at an extremely high power level and are willing to accept a huge amount of complexity for what is only ever a handful of cards. Like there's not that many cards even printed with the initiative mechanic. Not even mentioning just the strongest ones. So
I mean, to be clear, I think there's like a difference between am I aligned in like a design sense? Like, do I think this cube is interesting from a design perspective versus what do I want? Like, is this a cube that I'm going to have fun in as a player? And I'm answering just from that player perspective.
Yeah.
And so you could have a cube that is like totally aligned in terms of like, oh, okay, this is all like really aesthetic. And I really appreciate the way that you've made choices about the cards that you've included. But when I'm sitting down at the table, I just don't want to read all those dungeons.
yeah. I think we can leave it there.
Okay, great.
I can think of some other things that are close, but nothing else that jumps out at me that I'm like, ooh, huge red flag than the initiative. DSB wants to know, what does winning look like for a cube designer from an evolutionary perspective?
I was with this, but I don't know what the word evolutionary is doing here.
I also was with this question until the end, and then I was like, I don't actually know what DSB means. And that's, that's part of the beauty of a question from DSB. What does this question look like from a question asker's perspective?
I mean, for me, winning is just when players delight in something and you just get like a really positive response about a cube design. Is there anything more than that?
I think that winning for a cube designer is growing your community, whatever that looks like. For a lot of us, that's growing your in-person community. For some of us, that's growing an online community. If you live somewhere where that's not really possible. I think cube design, more and more, I'm convinced, is like almost fundamentally a like community project, in the sense that even if you're like rarely playing it, you're probably designing it to talk about it, to look at it with some other people, right? To me, I think winning for a cube designer is growing your community. That's why you shouldn't put the initiative in your cubes, because it makes it really hard to get new people invested when they just get smoked by a card that makes a card that they can't even bother to read, that then kills them. No, I'm not going to make this a little soapbox about the initiative. But yeah, when I think of the cube designers that I feel like I look at them and I think, wow, you're really doing it. It's the ones that are really making their creative cube designs about a community of people, wherever that may be.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned Derek's cube, where we're like making contributions to a brand new cube pretty much, but like this was designed by one player in our cube, we drafted it, the winner got to keep the cube, and they've sort of given themselves a task of, okay, I'm going to let the winner of each cube exchange a certain number of cards, and I feel like that kind of project is sort of bridging the gap between we're doing cube design, we're doing community stuff, and now those are the same thing.
Yeah. And from an evolutionary perspective, I don't think any of that is going to make you more likely to procreate and produce children. So,
but you don't think that ideas propagate in a way that is affected by evolutionary forces?
Whoa, bro. Blowing my freaking mind.
I hate how much I love the book, The Selfish Gene.
That's a concise.
It's a really good book that
thought.
really influenced my thinking about things, even if I don't think the author is the best guy.
So what you're saying is if you like the initiative, you are more likely to die, to perish.
Yes, a cube with the initiative will die.
I'm doing the equivalent of like Lamarckism, but for cube design, where it's like, I played red aggro a lot, and it just made me really aggressive as a person. Thanks, DSB, for the incredibly puzzling question. Oscar asks, can Andy tell us the story of stabbing himself in the thigh for episode 300? And Oscar, no, I can't, because episode 300 is long in the can, but I can now. I must have referred to this in passing in episodes, which is why Oscar knows that I did stab myself in the thigh with a knife, but doesn't know how. This is maybe kind of hard to actually tell on air. I can demonstrate it. I've told the story, dozens of times in person, and I feel like physically demonstrating it with my body is much easier. But basically, it's the dumbest story in the world, Oscar. I have done some whittling in my life, and so I have whittling knives. And for those of you who don't know what a whittling knife looks like, you're looking at a knife with a 3.5 inch blade that is a really thick spine because it's used to cut wood. So it's a really, really thick blade that does still taper to a very sharp point, but that means that the taper angle is relatively obtuse because the blade is pretty thick. And it comes to a sharp point at the tip as well.
Sounds like you're describing my chicken knife.
Well, much shorter than your chicken knife and much thicker. So much thicker. Like maybe 3/16 of an inch on the spine. Like really thick. They typically have wooden handles that are handle size and shaped, and they have a plastic sheath that goes over the blade so that you can store it safely without stabbing stuff. And I literally, and this is probably, let's call it 8 years ago, 9 years ago. It's been a minute. Probably 9 years ago, because I've been in my house 12 years, maybe 10 years ago. One day I was just walking through my basement. I forget what I was doing. Was I coming down to do the laundry? Maybe. Was I coming down to fetch something else? Perhaps. I don't even remember what it was. I was just walking through my basement, and my stupid, unfocused brain just saw my whittling knife sitting in its sheath in my toolbox. And I thought, my whittling knife. I'm going to look at my whittling knife. I'm just going to look at it. I had nothing to do with it. I was not planning on whittling. I just wanted to look at my whittling knife because I hadn't looked at it in a while. And I go to remove it from the plastic sheath, and it's stuck. Like, it's been in there for a while. I haven't used it in a couple years. And so it's just like jammed in this sheath. And so I've got my left hand on the plastic sheath, my right hand firmly gripping the handle, and I'm holding the knife kind of in front of my stomach, and I'm pulling on it, and I can't get enough leverage. And so imagine I like hunch over and kind of like have my, fingers on my like thigh, basically. Like if you were like bending over to like really twist a bottle cap really hard or something to try and get a bottle open or a jar open. And I'm just like hunched over, pulling. And of course, the knife just like completely snaps free of the sheath entirely in like an instant. And I had so much tension on my muscles that like what I did impulsively next was just like I pulled it out like a foot, and then my muscles like snapped back, and I just plunged the whole length of like the 3.5-inch blade all the way into my thigh, and then immediately back out. It was just like boop, and then I was like,
I've been stabbed.
And it went through my jeans, through my boxers, and obviously through those things, because it went all the way into my thigh. And I only knew I'd gone all the way in because it was so fast, because I looked at the blade and there was a little bit of blood all the way to the hilt. And I was like, well, got myself pretty good. I am so lucky that I did not hit any major arteries or veins. I was bleeding quite a bit, but I was not like gushing bleed. I didn't hit my femoral artery. It was deep enough that I totally could have hit my bones or like a major tendon or something. Bones. It was really just the meat of my thigh. And I had meatier thighs back then because I was biking a lot. I got pretty meaty. I'm a big guy. I got meaty thighs. Then my poor wife was just like, I went down to the basement, and then 30 seconds later, I was like, help! And I was walking up with my like jeans at my ankles and like blood pouring down my leg. It was just like, what do I do? And it turns out I was like just really lucky. I didn't really hurt myself that badly. It healed fine. I've got a tiny scar. Yeah, that's the story of me plunging a whittling knife all the way into my thigh to the hilt, just because of no reason, because of literally no reason at all. I was just walking past it and thought, I'm going to look at that now.
I think it's a really good cautionary tale. If you ever find yourself, I think about this probably pretty actively. If I find myself putting excess force on something, I just take a step back and think, is there a better way to approach this problem?
I think my brain should do that more. It doesn't do that very much. I definitely should have, I was pulling as hard as I could, and you shouldn't ever have to pull a knife as hard as you could.
Your body reacts in that way. It will compensate for that sudden change in, I no longer need to be applying this much pressure because all the pressure has suddenly disappeared because the cap came off. And
right, if my body hadn't compensated back, I would have fallen over probably because I pulled all my weight,
Then you would have looked very foolish. So good thing your body knew what to do in this scenario.
Anyway, be careful out there, folks. It's a dangerous world. I was really, I think last year, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, I cut myself in the kitchen once, pretty bad. And that's the first time I ever cut myself in the kitchen with a knife. And I was previously very proud of my never having cut myself in the kitchen. And on the rare occasion that it would come up and I would say yeah, I'm pretty proud. I've been cooking for, my entire adult life, never cut myself in the kitchen. Hillary would always go, yeah, but you stab yourself in the thigh that one time. So calm down with the bragging about your knife safety.
Yeah, but no, I think that does make sense. When people get injuries in the kitchen, it's never because, I was cutting vegetables. It's when you're doing that. Oh, never mind. I think for most people, it's when you're cutting, you know how to hold your hand, you know what you're doing, and you're in control. For me, the only time I cut myself was cleaning a knife. And I think that is a common story. Or you're doing something unusual and out of the ordinary.
I was cutting an onion.
You just had
in the
your
normal
finger
style. It was the side of my thumb, and I was cutting an onion, and it slipped off the onion and just took most of my tip of my thumb off.
Are listeners cringing as much as I am thinking about?
I was not being careful enough. I was in a rush cooking, and I was like, I'll cut this onion real quick, and irresponsible. Also, I'm just now reading the rest of his question where Oscar says he hopes it's a swearing episode because I love the swearing episodes, and I'm so fortunate that will be bleeped. This is not a swearing episode. But we have another one coming in December, so put it on your calendar. Oscar. John from Patreon asks, what is the biggest fight or argument you two have ever had?
It's probably about, like, what color a button should be, or that one time I threw a snowball at you. It's probably one of those two.
I don't think it's either of those two.
Oh.
I have two things that come to mind for me. The snowball thing. Okay, look. We both had a little too much to drink. You got a little feisty. You threw a snowball in my face and said, I want to fight you, and then ran away, and I slipped on the ice and fell. That was not a fight, because you ran away. It would have been it would have been a fight. It would have been a fight if I had been able to catch you, but I had very low grip shoes on. Your shoes are much grippier. Mm-hmm. Because my shoes, frankly, looked a lot nicer. I had nice leather shoes on with leather sole. You were wearing, like, your typical sneakers with a nice suit. So I was really looking better that night. But it did give you the grip you needed to escape my grasp. So let's go chronologically. And both of these happened in college that I'm thinking back to. One of them was freshman year. And I remember we watched a documentary in one of our liberal arts courses about this kid who was in the Boy Scouts, and he was a documentary about his sort of advocacy for the Boy Scouts to allow in gay Boy Scouts, which I think they do now. I hope they do now. It's been,
I don't know.
You gotta believe that one too, Matthew. I imagine they probably do at this point, but when at the time of this documentary being made, it was just like a rule. You weren't allowed, which is just crazy to think about. Even like, it's so crazy to think about writing down a rule for like who the 12-year-olds want to kiss. It's like, if you want to kiss a boy, you're not allowed to be here. Like, it's crazy to think that. And we were discussing this in class. We were in class together. We had almost all of our freshman year classes together because of the thing that our college did, where they basically like grouped students into cohorts and then had them take a bunch of classes together because it was an art school. And the idea was that you would basically see this person's work in multiple different media and in different contexts, and you would be a better, peer critic of their work, having seen a greater body of it, which I think is brilliant and was totally true. So we were in a bunch of classes together, including this class. And I remember I very strongly felt that this kid was kind of BS and like doing this like performative. And I'll say I don't quite feel this way now, but how I felt at the time was like, you are in the Boy Scouts. You are putting on the uniform. You are like walking around in public, like loudly advertising for this organization. You are benefiting from it in every single way you benefit from being in the Boy Scouts. You're participating in the broken system, and then you're just like kind of complaining along the way that it's like a broken system and that like, they should totally change their ways. I felt like the like thing to do if he actually morally cared about this issue would have been to leave the Boy Scouts. Like, just don't participate in the thing that has values you don't agree with. At the time, I think I was much more likely to express an opinion strongly and potentially controversially, but I remember that you and another friend of ours were just like, that's so stupid. Like, you were just like, you're so dumb. Like, why would you think that? And obviously had like reasonable counterexamples. But I remember we disagreed at that point in time pretty sharply. It was also notable because we agree on so many things and did at the time too. But I was just like kind of sickened to see this guy like in his Boy Scout uniform.
That guy, yeah.
No, not you. Just like to see this guy like talking about how great the Boy Scouts is in every single way, except being like, I wish they let my gay friends in though. And it's like, okay, then leave. Like, actually protest it. But I think also part of it is that like I at the time, and probably still to some degree, feel like there's a lot of other things about the Boy Scouts I also don't like. And so it's hard for me to see the inherent value in the organization that I think this person saw that made them want to like rehabilitate it from the inside, as opposed to just like leave and protest it from the outside. But
it's funny how like I remember the discussion sort of, it does not stand out in my memory as like this was a big argument, and I'm sorry that I might have just been dismissive, and for me it might have been, why were you so dumb?
We did talk about it a lot, and which is why it stands out to me, is because I remember like it was one of the only times I felt like we weren't on the same page. I was definitely the one that felt on the other side, because you and another friend were kind of like, you agreed, and I was like, and also to be clear, other people in the class that were not my close friends, were also strongly against me. And so I felt like the whole class was against me, including my friends that I love so much. It just stands out to me as like a moment where you like really disagreed on something. And it was like, oh, we always agree on everything. That's weird. I think that's the one I'm going to go with. The other one's kind of a different thing, which we'll go on to a different question because I don't think it's worth talking about. Here's a really difficult question for you and a really easy question for me. What's your favorite dish the other has made? You make so much great food. Your ramen, I think, is the best ramen I've ever had on the planet. And
it's very, very kind of you to say.
And so it's like very easy for me to be like, the ramen Anthony makes is just the best thing you make. I love it.
I'll take it. A couple things stand out in my memory. I remember one time, I think this might have actually been for my birthday. I just remember you cooking this tomahawk steak and doing it sous vide, and it was like serious Fled Flintstone. We're keeping that level, just giant bone, insane steak, and it was so delicious. You cooked it on the grill. That was very good, but also not necessarily like exquisite cooking so much as like very good cooking, but also a little bit of a spectacle is probably why it stands out in my memory.
That one I had to sous vide in the cooler because it was too big for any pot in the house, and so I had to like jury rig something to like hold my sous vide circulator in a cooler. And I remember feeling at the time like, oh, this is probably just like a showy spectacle thing, and it's not going to be like any better than a regular steak. And then it was better, and I was like, oh dang! Turns out sous vide with the bone in does make a big difference, maybe.
Another dish that you make that I really enjoy is the buckwheat crepes with ham and cheese and an egg in it. I think something that I appreciate about you is that you'll eat something and just be like, I want to perfect this dish. And I think you really just like worked on that. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to find the perfect recipe. It was like, I'm going to practice and iterate
but the
and experiment.
diagnosis is not formalized. Something I appreciate you is that you get fixated and stuck on something and you do it over and over again. I do love those crepes. I actually got to have those again from the place where I initially had them in Paris because we were in Montreal, and I just happened to be looking around and saw that like this place that we'd have these crepes in Paris has one location in Montreal, and I was like, we have to go have them again. And it was exactly as I remembered. Really good buckwheat style Breton crepes. And I will say that I think it's on Brown, maybe. Somebody on Serious Eats has a very thorough Breton crepe recipe they made when they themselves also had these crepes, probably also in Paris, and were like, I'm going to try and recreate these. And I basically follow that recipe to a T, and it's great. So if you want to enjoy these crepes, you can do that too.
Do you have a favorite dish that you make? This is kind of a different question, but I'm wondering what I'm forgetting.
It's hard for me to think of favorites in terms of food, you know? I will say, Hood, I've been making a lot of pizza lately. We made like just a big batch of dough the other week, and then we're just like multiple nights of the week, just like thawing some dough, making a pizza or two for dinner. That's really fun. I think I finally figured out the pizza peel cornmeal balance to like actually use a pizza stone properly. For a long time, I just couldn't make it work, and I almost gave it up and just used a pan, but finally got there. Yeah, I don't know. I think it changes so much based on seasonality. I could never choose a favorite that would be true for an extended period of time.
Such a me answer.
Hillary would probably say that like my basic winter pot beans are their favorite thing that I make, and they are really good. And I do feel like that recipe is just like, I don't know, where I slowly evolved over time in making a lot of beans. I didn't get it from one particular place. Thank you for that question, Morgan. Coffee Cube asks, what are 3 books you'd recommend the average LPR listener check out?
3 books.
Could we make it 3 between us total instead of 3 each? Says the guy that struggles to read.
Name 3 books.
I think I've talked about it on the main show. I've definitely talked about it on a whole bonus episode of Magic Doesn't Exist. I do think people that like cube design should check out A Pattern Language. It is a book that I adore and is about thinking about urban design, architecture, and interior design in a very systematic way. And it basically provides this framework and like format that allows you to sort of encapsulate a little tiny piece of knowledge of like what works in buildings and, you know, communicate that and then like, you know, turn it into an abstract pattern. Parker and I have talked over the years about like making a pattern language for cube design. And I think it would be a very cool project that I just don't have additional time to do with all the stuff I'm doing. But I think it very much is appealing to people that like games, like systems, like designing things. So I think a pattern language is my number 1 with a bullet recommendation for people that are listening to Lucky Paper Radio.
So that's my question about this question. Is this specifically a recommendation for people who listen to this podcast?
It says for the average LPR listener.
I think that makes it trickier because I want to just talk about food books, but that's probably not as relevant.
This is like a classic, like leftist basic answer, but I do think almost everybody should read A People's History of the United States. If you're listening to the show, you're statistically probably a male slightly younger than us, and you should read A People's History of the United States if you have not or are not aware of that, because I think it's a really good, concise, basic, hey, actually, maybe all these things that we are conditioned society to think are good are maybe not the best starter book that I think is a really good place. It's a book I'm happy to recommend to almost anybody.
I'm just going to go fiction, just for fun.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I talk about some of my favorites like and a lot, so I'm not mentioning those.
They're not being mentioned.
They're not being mentioned.
Matthew, bleep them.
Instead, Blind Sight is one of my all-time favorites. Science fiction. The log line is vampires in space, but in a like cool, intense psychological horror way, exploring sort of like consciousness and personhood and all kinds of interesting topics. Love that book. One I've read recently that I just adored was Ursula K. Le Guin's The Dispossessed. I'd read some of her work before and it was good, but The Dispossessed is fantastic. Just like one of the best books I've read in a long, long time. And a third one, Infinite Jest. Good luck. I love that book. It only took me 3 tries to read it. It's so good.
Alex W. wants to know, what are your top 3 subreddits?
I've been thinking about getting into Reddit. I mean, I probably spend the most time in Cube Reddit, r/Koji, and r/fermentation. I don't spend a lot of time on
Do you
there.
spend some time there?
Occasionally I poke in, just see what's going on. Thought about posting. Posted some ramen on r/ramen and did not get much response.
Really?
Yeah.
It must be a really tiny subreddit if you didn't get much response.
No, it's a huge subreddit.
And they didn't care about your beautiful, perfect ramen? What was your title?
Probably not clickbaity enough.
Doesn't have to be clickbaity. It's just gotta, like, people really respond to when you're like, I made this with my own hands kind of thing. Because, like, what they wouldn't be interested in is, like, I imagine that subreddit, knowing nothing about it, is on high alert for people that are just, like, posting stupid AI slop images of a bowl of ramen or, like, you know, advertising some restaurant or something.
I think it's telling the sort of like community rules, really emphasize pictures of ramen packages are not allowed. If you're going to cook instant ramen, it has to be properly tagged and you have to have actually prepared the bowl. I mean, you're probably right, but also I think that would be very unhealthy for me if I think more in that direction of like, I want to optimize my posts because I don't want to do that. I want to make beautiful things.
I'm not saying you should like commit a bunch of time and energy to like figuring out how to optimize it perfectly. I do think if you like want to get something out of Reddit, it's like behooves you to spend a minute or two just like trying to understand the language that, you know, will get people to actually understand where you're coming from and engage with your stuff. Honestly, my top subreddit, I'm just looking at my algorithm right now. I spend a little bit of time on Reddit most days. I think it is still one of the only sane, it's not sane. The thing about Reddit is that it is inherently like not one centralized monolithic thing. Every subreddit is independently moderated and there are some high level rules overall you have to follow, but every subreddit is kind of like its own little universe, which I think is a great benefit to the platform because everything that is monolithic is god-awful. Like, Twitter is unbearable, Facebook is unbearable, even Blue Sky is not great. Like, all these sort of, like, centralized, we're going to make a big space for everyone to hang out. Turns out that is just awful and does not work for society. So I do spend some time on Reddit. I think it is, you know, one of the more reasonably organized, and you can still enjoy Reddit in a way that gives you complete control over what you're seeing. Like, there is an algorithm if you just, like, open your homepage or whatever, but you also can just go to a subreddit and sort it however you want at any time. And, like, it's crazy that that's become, like, a radical decision that, like, they still allow that almost no other website lets you do. But just algorithmically, I do like a lot of subreddits with a lot of cute pit bulls on it. I love pit bulls. So I have pit bulls, I have pitties and kitties. I just like looking at cute dogs. Sorry, sue me. Is it basic bitch behavior? It is, but I still like it. I also really like the X-biking subreddit.
X-biking?
X-biking. It is a, like, alternative subculture of cycling fans that intentionally is, like, eschews mainstream bike technology and, like, Lycra and riding fast and all that kind of stuff, and, like, cares about bikes as, like, utility objects. Like, the X ostensibly means, like, something combined with biking. So, like, it's the biking is part of your, like, broader life and, like, other hobbies, essentially.
I love when two things are together. The one thing at a time is the worst thing.
It's a lot of people that do really cool and interesting, like, resto mods of bikes and, like, are willing to break convention in their, like, weird bike builds and stuff. So if you're into bikes at all, I will highly recommend X-biking. Then I'll also shout out one of my other favorite, like, totally basic subreddits, which is r/instant barbarians. It's a subreddit dedicated to videos where people go from being normal and restrained to losing their minds in an instant. Mostly like, the most basic example is like you're at a bar in some, you know, hometown and they're watching on the TV when like the hometown team is playing the World Cup and then they score a goal and the bar goes crazy, right? It's that moment where everybody goes crazy that the whole subreddit is dedicated to. And I gotta say, something about those videos really like tugs at like an emotional heartstring for me. I don't know what it is. I find them very affecting, and I have like occasionally gotten weepy at like an Instant Barbarians video over like stupid reasons. Like, I don't know, stupid videos of like the next Smash game getting announced and seeing everyone like with their friends and so happy and excited. It's just like, I don't know why. It gets me, I like it. r/Instant Barbarians. Sort that by top all time or whatever and see if you enjoy it.
Interesting. I was expecting more tattoo Reddits, but
I have been using the Tattoo Advice and Tattoo Beginners subreddit quite a bit as a resource, but the culture there is not great in either of them. Tattoo Advice is almost exclusively, the popular posts are people that are like, how bad is my tattoo? Posts most horrific, horrible tattoo you've ever seen. Or like, it didn't come out quite as I expected. Am I allowed to be upset? And they show like the reference they gave the artist next to like this utter abomination, and it's just people gawking at these like disasters, which is not particularly interesting. Or famously, it's somebody that like accidentally got some incredibly meaningful symbol tattooed on them they didn't understand the meaning behind. Ooh. Unfortunately, oftentimes with like racist connotations, where it's like, actually your big eagle chest tattoo is gonna really say something else to other people than you're expecting. And then Tattoo Beginners is it's a lot of people that are trying to be self-taught. The comments are a lot of people that are very critical of the idea of trying to teach yourself how to tattoo, or like against the idea that people should be learning this way anyway. It's like, why are you even over here if like you don't think this is how people should be learning how to tattoo? And then the advice is also like, I'm still very new, and still the advice is like largely not very good. So I would be using them more if they were any good, but they're kind of not.
It's too bad. I think actually the way I'm exposed to Reddit the most is through Tom Walker talking about things he finds on Reddit. So
so you mostly know about the self-suck subreddits and the weird Super Mario fan fiction subreddits.
Yeah, I guess that's where I indirectly spend the most time.
All right, we'll do one last question here from Dog Rock B-Boy and Patrick. So 2 people asked a very similar question. Can you talk about other trading card games or games you find scratch a similar itch to Cube? What are your favorite video games? Do you want to take this first?
I can answer this very concisely. No, not really.
Yeah, I think we're both in the same boat of like, I do not play other trading card games. I have never learned the rule system to another trading card game, except for when I was a kid and I played Pokemon very briefly. And I'm just not interested. I don't like learning new stuff. Part of the value of Magic for me is all of the like accumulated history. Like I know some people are really big on sorcery right now, and I talk to the people that are like really big into sorcery, and I can tell that like their interest in Magic is so different than my interest in Magic, where it's like you're like really interested in this like, you know, very specific like tuned mechanical experience, and like I think Magic is a brilliant game. If it wasn't, I wouldn't still be doing all of this. Do I believe that sorcery probably has improved a lot of like some of the baggage that Magic has and maybe has made a cleaner engine? Sure, yeah, but like that is not appealing to me because I play Magic for the community and like for the fact that it is a game that has this like big massive audience, and like there's places I can go talk to people about it, and all the history of all the cards is like so meaningful to me. I'm not interested in any of the TCGs, and I also don't play very few video games. I like play Smash Brothers casually with my wife and friends. I basically never play like alone. Not that it's really a game you do play alone. I would fall down the rabbit hole if I got into a single player video game too much, and so I just kind of can't let myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to answer, like, what scratches the same itch, because Magic is so many things, and it has been so many different things for me over the years. It's a creative outlet. It's a reason to bring people together and form community. It's a, like, collecting was, for better or for worse, something that I've, like, really valued for a while, or at least did compulsively. You know, deck building is sort of a different experience. So Magic is, like, so many things, and that's why I've stuck with it for so long, is because if some aspect of it is not keeping my attention for a while, some other aspect of it will. So I don't know, it's like the things that are also scratching those itches of like building community and being creative are things like cooking and pottery, and
right.
I also just like am aware of how much time I have invested in Magic and like what a big sink that is. Like, do I want to also not sacrifice, but, you know, spend so much of my time doing another game? Not really. It's more satisfying to me to have a more diverse range of types of experiences. So I don't know. I'm not closed off to it. I've been going to some board game nights and playing, like I played the Slay the Spire board game. I've never played the video game version last week, and that was quite fun. But yeah, it's not something where I could see myself sinking the same amount of attention that I have Magic into something else. And I'm just not sure if like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! A couple times would give me that much satisfaction. I guess maybe what's the Netrunner is maybe the first that I would consider, because I know there is a lot of like interesting community and like
very historically
custom
interesting
design.
Too, yeah.
So that's something that maybe would be the most appealing.
The creative outlet is such a central reason why I play Magic now, and the amount of time I have to spend playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whatever until I could have it be a creative outlet and not be like learning so much the stuff would be so much. So yeah, this is the language I speak, and that's why I'm here still. And on that bombshell, that's the end of this episode of Lucky Paper Radio. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in and for your support over the past year. All the music for this show is produced by DJ James Nasty, and the show is edited by Matthew and supported by all of you great Patreon subscribers out there. All the Magic cards are produced by Wizards of the Coast, and this podcast is produced by Thinking Really Hard about Magic cards. I've been speaking to microphones about it. Anthony, thank you for the gift of friendship and for the gift of Cube.
Thank you for reminding me of the ever-important lesson of knife safety.
Yeah, don't stab yourself.
Don't stab yourself.
The number one rule of knives.